if you don't ask, the answer is always no. And the whole thing about the power of ask is your life will change its trajectory the more you ask. I had the lead singer of Journey, and he came on and did a question and answer for our team, and he actually sung, Don't Stop Believing, and it was wild on Zoom. We've had Lisa Loeb on. That all started with reaching out on Instagram messages to these people. No one ever tells you about the 30 people who said no, but you remember the 2 that said yes.
You're listening to Stories from the Top, an inside guide to better business development. All right, we are back once again with Jim Jacobs of Focus Insight. Jim, once again, just give us a little background on yourself.
Yeah, West Philly, born and bred, like the Fresh Prince song says. But so grew up in West Philadelphia, Overbrook Park, and just lived in the area my whole life. Malvern Prep guy, St. Joe University guy, entrepreneur, started several different businesses. Some were good, some were not. I've been with this latest one, Focus Insight, and a lot of trials and tribulations, but we are Inc. 5000 company twice, just won the Titan 100 for top CEOs in Philadelphia this year. So proud of that accomplishment. And hockey coach, won a couple Flyers Cups and state championship and some middle school championships for Malvern Prep, which was a lot of fun. Have a few hockey players myself with my 3 boys. So
that's awesome. So in this episode, I want to dive into some of the benefits of global networking. One of the reasons I thought you were a really interesting character was we met in EO, the Entrepreneurs Organization, and you were telling me about all these wild adventures you've had all over the world. And so I just want to get your perspective on the impact that global networking has had on your personal development, your business's development.
Well, it's hysterical you mentioned that, right? And my nickname is the Hawk, right? And they call me the Hawk, and the Hawk has to spread his wings and fly, right? So that's kind of the neat thing. I never been to Europe or Asia or anywhere. I traveled around the United States, but it wasn't until a couple years ago through EO I got on the board, and I ended up going to Singapore. And Singapore, I went to Thailand before, and I went to Bali, Indonesia afterwards. And I'm like, oh my God, what have I been missing? I haven't traveled. I've never been to Europe. So this year I went to 4 countries, which it turned out to be 5. I went to Rome. I went to Vatican City. I don't know if you know this. Vatican. When you go to the Vatican in Rome, it's actually technically another country, which is kind of crazy. So I went to Rome, went to Greece, Athens and Spetses. I went to Amsterdam, and I went to Paris, France, and it was just unbelievable. And the amount of it's funny because when people complain about the U.S., they're, oh my God, go over to Asia, go over to you won't realize how lucky you are to be here. So we live in the greatest country in the world. Globally, I have friends from around the world. This is all through EO. It's been a phenomenal experience. And I mean, my advice to anyone is, join these different events, join these different clubs, get involved at the board level, because you end up meeting people who get involved in different stages and become lifelong friends. So I can't tell you how many times, even around the world, I'll call up a guy from Mexico or from, Parveen Dupar. He's my brand guy. I'll call him in Mississauga, Ontario. Or I'll call down to Latin America, a friend of mine, Dan Baker, when we need some Latin American people for a Hispanic project or something. So those relationships are absolutely key. Just the ability to go on your phone or your LinkedIn and know these people and get a quick answer, as opposed to a general email trying to develop a relationship. It makes all the difference in the world.
So how did you start off in building your professional network?
I started building my professional network by not trying to build my professional network. So the answer to that is, I ended up getting a lot of business through hockey, through guys I knew in hockey, and I just wanted to go play hockey. But they know you, they trust you, and hey, I have my dad's looking to sell this. Hey, I'm having we're trying to look into this. So I would always just offer help and opinions, and sometimes they have their own guy, but a lot of times they want me to come in and get involved. And joining things I like doing. I found that if I would go to a networking event, they were okay, but I got a lot of better business if I would get involved on different boards, or where you're really doing some similar things, or going to different entrepreneur organization, different meetings, right? Like I'm involved at the board level. So at the board level, you do a lot of unpaid work, but it depends how you look at it, right? So I can trace a lot of different things back to those relationships. So I always tried not to build. I try to build a network by not building a network, which sounds weird, but I heard it. Some guy said it on LinkedIn. I forwarded it to a lot of people, but especially when you're in like your 20s and 30s, your house is only somewhere you sleep. You really don't want to be in a house. You want to be out and about, meeting people, building your network. And I did a lot of that. I mean, whether it was hockey, or whether it was coaching, or whether it was CrossFit, or whether it was golf, it was just things I liked to do, and especially when, you get involved with these certain things and you meet people and I know him from Wissahickon Hockey Club. I know him from Union League or something. Like it's fantastic. And that's the way I like to do business. So that's the way I've really found success building a professional network over the years. And a lot of it is, hey, I think I can help you. Like, for example, now my network is my WhatsApp. Okay, I'm in all these different WhatsApp groups, and people have an issue. And if I've had a similar issue, hey, let me help you. I think I can help you with this. I had this problem, and this is what I did. This didn't work. If I had that problem again, this is what I would have done. And I find that, the more I help people, then when I need something, it's never a problem. So I always tried to build a network with, what can I offer for you today? What's your pain point today? What skill set or what do I have that I can help you with? And then people don't forget that. People don't forget when you help them out in a time of need. So that's been my method to the madness.
Gotcha. And I know some people think of networking like it comes really naturally to them. They love people. Other people kind of think of it maybe as like a little bit of a chore that you have to do when you're building a business. But what philosophies do you try to embrace when it comes to networking?
I love my phone, because your phone, I have 1,000 contacts in there, and every other person has 100 or 200 or 1,000 contacts, right? So what I think is, there's no such thing as natural networking. People don't believe us, but sometimes I feel very introverted. Now I go out and like there's things like Toastmasters you can go up. Like I was deathly afraid to get up in front of people, and then I learned to, I went to a Dave Matthews show. I was second row. I'm like, God, I've always wanted to learn guitar. And I went out and bought a guitar at Guitar Center, and I spent like $650 on the credit card. And now I'm like, okay, like now what do I do? So now I wanted to learn it. And then through that process, I ended up seeing about an open mic, and I went to an open mic, scared to death, singing in front of people, and I just learned the guitar. So through that process, I would go over and over every week, and just the reps. And then now it's no big deal. I can do it. So I found the same thing with networking. It's really nerve-wracking when you're going up to people at one of these events, especially after COVID, when those events were like, I guess for a good 3 years or 4 years, you didn't have them. Now you're starting to get back. So I find with networking, there's lots of books I like to read, but really getting in, like knowing the server. When I learned this from Pat Croce. So when the server's there, okay, what's your name? Ann. Okay, thanks, Ann. You call her Ann the whole time, and you might forget it when you leave, but at least you made her feel special. So I find that has been, for me, the best way to network is just to talk to a lot of people, remember their names, and then for something special, hey, I remember this, and I always try to be proactive with introductions. Hey, I know someone you might want to talk to. This might be a good guy, and sometimes some big deals come out of it, or sometimes it's a good introduction. And I do this stuff all the time, So even with hockey, like, hey, I got a great defenseman for you. One of my son's friends, great hockey player, was talking to his coach. Oh man, we really need solid defensemen. I'm like, got the perfect one for you. Before you know it, they draft them, and they're playing together in the NAHL. So major junior hockey, so pretty cool.
So it sounds like you're really leveraging your just community involvement in general, and kind of like, is there any line between like your business networking and your community involvement, or is it just kind of one and the same for you?
It's funny you mention that, because people mention like work-life balance and work people and this, and I don't have that. I'm just on. Okay, like I can tell you wild. You end up getting in these rooms and you talk to people, at the bar over lunch or whatever. And I'm glad. I'm really glad. Thank you for having me on this podcast, because I'm like, you know what? I'm eating by myself way too much. Like, there's a great book, Never Eat Lunch Alone, I think, or something like that, or Never Eat Alone.
Keith Ferrazzi.
Yeah. Keith Ferrazzi. Which now I'm thinking about that. I'm like, you know what? Why am I eating alone? Like, I got to start going out with people to go eat. So, because, it's amazing. And that's where we need to get back to, is the lunches, the dinners. And I can't tell you how many times, like my friend of mine, Harris Danoff, right, has his own law firm, former teammate of mine. I'm talking to him about, he's got a 16-year-old nephew in the hockey. So we're talking about all hockey stuff. Well, guess what? When I have a legal question, I can get it answered. I mean, either ChatGPT now, or I call Harris. I'm like, what do you think about this? Right? I mean, there's no bill. There's no, you don't want to do this, or you want to do this, or, oh yeah, we can take care of you. So, and that happens in every industry I have. I mean, you look at my house, I have granite countertops because I know the guy. That's because I know the guy. Oh my God, I hired the cabinet guy, and he screwed us up, and guy in EO came over and saved the day, and because I coach his nephew in hockey. So that happens all the time, and I just think, some people have their business life and their private life, like it's my life. So I just have one life, and what other thing is too is it's a shame I've had 3 people close to me pass away in literally the past 10 days. And before that, it really hit me a few years ago, where 2 guys who really lived life the right way, police officers, families, they passed away. So, you're just passing through here. Your time is, I like, what I like to do is, I like to talk to as many people as I can. I'm really good at business development. I like to put different things together. I mean, I got a call that our email was down. Those are the calls I hate, right? But those are some of the realities of the thorns of a business that you don't see. It's easy to see when you win the Titan 100. It's hard to see when you're in a podcast and all of a sudden your phone's blowing up because your email doesn't work for the company you're paying. Like, oh, nightmare, But that's all part of the journey.
So you told me about some wild experiences traveling globally, meeting prime ministers and stuff like that. So give me some of those stories about like how that came to be, and yeah, because they're wild stories.
It is a wild story. So I did that twice, actually. So when I first joined EO, Entrepreneurs Organization, I joined the Philly chapter, and they said, you got to get on the board and do membership. And I got on the board to do membership to meet the members. So they're like, okay. And I ended up within a year, I think we went to the Global Learning Conference, which was in Panama. And so they had one room we went into with about 200 people, and we spoke to the president of Panama, like the president of the country. I'm like, holy Toledo, right? Like, this guy is here. And then when I was in Greece, so I went to Greece for Regional Leadership Academy through EO. And again, these are, I went to Europe by myself. I had no idea. I didn't know one person there, but I knew it was an EO event. It was Regional Leadership Academy. I wanted to do it for years. So I'm like, okay, I made it one of my goals this year to get to Europe somehow, some way, and see 5 countries, which I did. But I got there, and as a surprise, we had dinner with with the former prime minister, and he's sitting there at dinner talking about like I was negotiating this deal with Barack Obama, and holy moly, I'm at dinner with him, right? And there was about 30 of us at dinner, and it was a really neat experience. And all of a sudden, I'm getting texted by Chris Blango, and Chris Blango's like, "Hey, we need to get this guy in Buffalo State." I'm like, "Hey, I just left this dinner. I'm having dinner right now with the Prime Minister of Greece." He's like, "What?" I'm like, "Yeah, like the hockey thing. Like, I'm gonna help you out in a little bit. Just give me, yeah." So, really funny story, really wild stuff. Like, for example, and it's about. I want to write a book called The Power of Ask, and and if you don't ask, the answer is always no. And the whole thing about the power of ask is your life will change its trajectory the more you ask. And what is that? Like, for example, if you looked at us, we had, right around COVID, I had the lead singer of Journey come on, Arnel Pineda, who I have his phone number, and he came on and did a question and answer for our team, and he actually sung, "Don't Stop Believing," and it was wild on Zoom. We've had Lisa Loeb on. That all started with reaching out on Instagram messages to these people, or finding them on the internet. And, no one ever tells you about the 30 people who said no, but you remember the 2 that said yes. So that's, everything to me is a sales funnel. You just like the more people you speak to, it doesn't matter because people only remember the victories,
So what's your best piece of advice for somebody who needs to grow their professional network?
Swing the bat. All right. Like you got to swing the bat. Number one, if I could go back in time, I just became a member of the Union League a couple weeks ago, or like about 2 years ago. And it was a lengthy process. And I was like, am I really a country club guy? And I never saw myself as that. But I really like, my father was a Vietnam veteran who won a Purple Heart. My grandparents were, all military. And the patriotic part of that, I loved it. So I was like, hey, let me do it. And if I could go back in time, I would have definitely joined one of those clubs or something, because just the people you meet, the people I've had a drink with at the bar, or had a slice of pizza, or I went to an event. It's like the conversations are amazing. And I think, the more different clubs you can join. The Wissahickon Skating Club, I was a member of that for 10 years. And would travel with these guys playing hockey all up and down, the Northeast, and loved every second of it. And the people I met, oh, I know this guy from hockey. How do you know this guy? Oh, I know him from hockey. So some absolutely crazy things. And like for example, once you learn how to make sales calls and to do networking, it's insane. Because I saw something about they wanted extras for a TV show. So before you know it, like I'm watching Billions one day. I'm like, man, I want to be on a show on Billions. And I found out who the casting company was, and I said, hey, if you need extras, and sure enough, I was an extra, and I'm in a scene with Bobby Axelrod. I got into a movie, I got into one of the Rocky movies, well, Creed 1 and Creed 2. But just wild, like you have no idea what you can do if you ask. And you don't have to tell people what the no's are. Like, when I asked for The Rock to come on, he said no. Adrian Grenier. When I asked for Pat Benatar to come on our Zoom call, no. Google Dolls, no response. But when I get the lead singer of Journey and he comes on, oh my God, I got the lead singer of Journey. When I get Lisa Loeb, oh my God, amazing. So everyone just remember. And that's what's great. Mark Cuban said in one of his books, he said, if you hit 1 out of 3, you're in the Baseball Hall of Fame. If you hit 1 out of 1,000 or 10,000, you're in the Business Hall of Fame. You just need one. You need one to take off. So, I carry that every day because, one major client can be life-changing.
So what's coming up in the future for Jim Jacobs?
The future for Jim Jacobs. Well, we're on a growth spurt now, which is great because we've been at a stabilized growth for a couple of years. So, this AI era is wild. It changes so much every day. We're trying to figure out, we think we're on the edge of it. We've invested heavily into technology, and we have software coders on our team. And what we're looking to do is kind of branch out. So we're getting in the government contracting space, one division of the company. And then we're also looking to target our people, which we have towards large language models like, there's Claude, or Anthropic, and there's Meta and Google, so there's all these companies that need people's actual opinions on how to develop AI. So that's where we're going forward with that, and it's been a hell of a ride so far, and looking forward to the future.
Awesome. Well, thank you again for coming on the show. Really appreciate it, Jim.
It was a pleasure being here, and thank you guys so much. I loved every minute, so I would love to do it again.
Stories from the Top is your guide to successful business development. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts or find Edge of Cinema on YouTube. Stories from the Top is an Edge of Cinema production, hosted by Matthew Skura and Jeremy Schmidt. To learn more or get in touch, visit edgeofcinema.com/podcast.